Welcome to Woggle Guides. In this guide I'll show you two different quick and easy ways you can use to add a border to a Google Docs page. And don't forget, you can click on any section below to go straight to the area of this guide that interests you the most. Please do subscribe if you like what you see, so we can let you know when new guides are published. Let's get straight into it. Let's start with a quick overview of the page border styles I'm going to show you how to create in this guide. Unlike with Microsoft Word, Google Docs doesn't offer a built-in way to add a border to a page. There are a number of ways to do this, however, and in this guide I'll show you two methods. The first style of page border we'll look at is a thin single line border that leaves a small margin at the edge of the page. This can be coloured and styled in a number of ways to get the right look you want. The second method I'll demonstrate creates a border that goes right to the edge of the page. Again, this can be styled in a number of different ways. Depending on which style you want to use in your Google Docs page, use the video chapter section link shown at the bottom of the video. These will take you directly to the guides where I'll show you how to create each of these page styles in Google Docs. Firstly, let's take a look at how to create a thin line border with a margin. So I'm in Google Docs and I've opened a new blank document. I'm going to start by zooming out the view of the document so we can see a full page. I do this by moving up to the menu bar, and you can see there's a drop down option here called Zoom. If I click on the drop down arrow, a number of different sizes are shown. I'm going to choose the smallest one available, 50%, by clicking it. The full Google Docs page can now be seen. To create my page border, I'm going to start by inserting a small table to the document. I do this by navigating to the top menu bar and choosing the insert link. If I scroll down, you can see that one of the options shown is table. Now if I move my mouse onto the table option, a table choosing tool appears. You can see that it allows you to create tables with a number of different rows and columns. To create our page border, however, I'm going to insert a table that is just one row wide and one column high. I do this by choosing the top left box in the tool, and you can see it's described as 1 by 1. To choose that table size, I just click it once, and you'll see that a box now appears in the document. So this doesn't look much like a page border yet. However, if I click inside the box until I see the flashing cursor, and then if I press the return key a number of times, you're beginning to see what looks like a page border appearing. We need to work a little more on this border to move it closer to the edge of the page and to add some styling. Before we do that, let's look at sizing the border on the full length of the page. Now, you can also increase the size of the page border by moving your mouse to the bottom line of the border, and when you see this small icon appear with arrows pointing both up and down, if you click and hold your mouse button, you can then drag the line towards the bottom of the page. If you want to create a border for a single page, such as you might do for a flyer or a leaflet, then this method works fine and is all you need to do. However, if you want to create a border for a number of pages, you'll see that if I drag this border line off the bottom of the page and release the mouse button, Google Docs then pushes the border onto the second page, and the bottom of the border disappears on that page, which doesn't look great. If I undo all of those changes and restore the border to its position before I dragged it, which by the way you can do by clicking Edit in the top menu and choosing Undo, if I then click inside the border again, I'll continue to press the return key. Now this does take a little longer, but as we move on to the second page, you'll see that the page border finishes at the end of the first page and then starts again on the second page. So if you need a page border for a single page, the drag method is fastest and easiest. But if we want to continue that page border across a number of pages, then you should use the return key method. Okay, so I'm going to quickly tidy this up and move the border back into a single page by removing the return key presses I've just made by pressing the delete key. Now let's turn to look at the positioning of our page border. So at the moment, the border is just a simple black line, and I think it's too far from the edge of the page. This space between the edge of the document and the start of our page border is called a margin. To move the page border closer to the edge of the page, we need to reduce the size of the margin. To do that, let's go back to our top navigation menu. And if I choose File and scroll all the way down to Page Setup, clicking that, a window opens. And on the right hand side of the box, you'll see there are 4 options to amend the margin sizes. These relate to their position in the document, so you have top, bottom, left and right. At the moment, each is set to 1 inch. To move our border closer to the edges of the page, we need to reduce the numbers shown for each of the sides of the document. This will require a bit of trial and error on your part, so that you get it just right for the size of border you want to add to your document. As a general rule, I like to make the top and bottom margins half the size of the left and right margins. In this example, I'll add 0.3 in for the top and bottom, and 0.6 in for the left and right margins. I do that by deleting the number currently in the margin box and replacing it with my measurements. One last tip before we leave this window is that this is also the page where you can change the background color of the document. If I move over to the page color section of the window and click the drop down, you'll see our default color is currently white. If you want to choose a different color, just click on it, or you can even add your own custom color. I quite like this color, so I'm going to choose that. You confirm the background color and your new margin settings by clicking on the large blue OK button. You'll see that the border has now moved closer to the edge of the page. If it's not quite right for you, go back into the page setup section and amend it until you're happy with it. You'll also notice that the border at the bottom has moved higher in the page. This is because we've changed some of the page dimensions. So to fix that, just click inside your border and press the return key again until it's back in the right place. If you add any text inside the border, you'll need to play around with the return key and delete key to keep the page border neat. So now we've got the page border in position, let's look at how to style it. If you click inside your page border and then right click using your mouse, one of the options shown is Table Properties. Let's click on that. In the window that opens, there are a couple of tools that we can use to style the page border. Let's look at each in turn. We'll start with the colour of the border. That is managed by this drop down under Table Border. Let's click on the downward arrow to open it, and you can see the default colour of black is currently selected. You can choose any of these preset colours or add your own custom colour by clicking on this link. I'll choose this colour, and by clicking on it, that is then saved. Let's now move on to the thickness of the border line. This is controlled by the drop down next to the one we've just looked at. At the moment, our line is quite thin and is set to 1 point. We can increase the thickness if we click on the downward arrow. And we can choose from one of the preset options in the list. I quite like a thick border, so I'm going to choose the thickest option, which is 6 points. I just need to click on that to save it. Once you've made all your changes to this window, to confirm them, choose the large blue OK button. And you can see these are now applied to the document. Again, because we've played with some of the dimensions in the document, it moves on to a second page, but to quickly fix that we can just click inside the page border and delete some rows. If you want to download a copy of this style of page border that you can reuse in your own Google Docs page, check out the link in the description where you can find a template. Make sure you download the template in only the open document, HTML or Microsoft Word file formats to keep the page border changes in the document. Now I'll move on to show you how to create an alternative style of page border that uses different colours for the margins and the body of the document. This second style of border uses some of the same techniques as the first one, but I'll cover these again briefly for those users that are only interested in this style of page border. I'm starting again with a blank Google Docs document. The first thing I want to do is pick the colour of my page border. To do this, I actually need to change the background colour of the Google Docs page. This will eventually become the border for the page using this method. To change the background colour of the page, I'll move to the top navigation bar, and if I choose File from the options shown, I want to scroll all the way down to near the bottom of the list and click on Page Setup. A window opens, and on the left hand side of this box, you'll see that there is a section called Page Color. Let's click on the drop down arrow in that area. A number of preset colours are shown, and you can choose any one of those. If however you need to match a specific colour, you can do this by clicking on the custom option at the bottom. This opens up a colour picker and you can search for a colour you like, or if you know the hex code for the colour, you can also enter that directly here. If you're not sure what the hex code is for the colour you want to use, you can quickly find this out by visiting an online colour picker website and uploading a reference image there. Check out the description for this video for a link to a site that can help you find the hex code for a colour. Once you've found a border colour that you're happy with, click the blue OK button to confirm it, and then click OK again to apply the colour change to the document. Now that we've set the edge border, we now need to choose the colour for that document. You can do this by adding a table to the page in the same way we did using the first method. To quickly recap that if you missed the first section, we add a table by navigating to the top menu bar and choosing the insert link. If we then scroll down the list of options and move the mouse over the table option, a table choosing tool appears. I'm going to choose to insert a table that is just one row wide and one column high. I can do this by choosing the top left box in the tool, and you see it's described as 1 by 1. To choose that table size, I just click it once, and you see that a table has been added. I want to extend this border out to the full length of the page, so I do that by pressing the return key until the border stretches across the full page. Unfortunately, the inside of the border is the same colour as the border, so at the moment it's not really a border at all. Let's fix that. I want to make the document colour white, so to do that, I'll click inside the page border and then right click using the mouse. One of the options shown is Table Properties. Let's click on that. In the window that opens, we're interested in the Cell Background Colour section. If I click on the drop down, you see that no colour is currently chosen. The table is transparent. I'm going to select white as my background colour, and I do that by clicking on it. To apply that colour to the inside of the border, let's click the blue OK button. So we now have a page border. One last thing I want to do is remove the thin black line between the border and the main body of the document. To do that, I'm going to right click in the table again and go back into Table Properties. You can remove the line in two ways, either by changing the table border colour to white, or alternatively, you can change the table border width to 0 points. I'll choose both and click OK. If you want to find out how to change the margin sizes of this border, check out the explanation for how to do this in the first part of this guide. If you want to download a copy of this style of page border that you can reuse in your own Google Docs page, check out the link in the description where you can find a template. Make sure you download the template in only the Open Document HTML or Microsoft Word file formats to keep the page border changes within the document. I hope you found this Woggle guide useful and learned something new. If you have, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe so that other users can find it too. Thanks for watching, and do look after yourself until next time.